This is Cronkite News.
Fortunately, the data shows the children are lower risk. The children obviously have a very strong immune system.
New CDC guidance heavily favors opening schools. We'll tell you why. Plus, how one Arizona pest control company is using one of their products to help protect against COVID-19. And this weekend, Phoenix Rising will play on a field that presented all kinds of problems last week. What this could mean for the team.
Cronkite News starts now.
Welcome to this Cronkite News Update. I'm Misha Jones. Medical experts are urging political leaders to shut down the country and start over to contain the coronavirus pandemic. This comes as the U.S. hit 4 million cases of COVID-19 and over 144,000 deaths, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. As the numbers continue to climb, more than 150 prominent U.S. medical experts, scientists, teachers, nurses, and others have signed a letter to political leaders urging them to shut down the country. This morning, Arizona reported over 3,300 new cases and 79 deaths. That brings the state's totals to over 156,000 coronavirus cases and over 3,100 fatalities. Yesterday, Governor Doug Ducey and State Superintendent Kathy Hoffman talked about the new measures and resources being put into place for schools to reopen safely. As for the school's start date, that will not change, with 180 days still required. Ducey said schools that choose not to resume in-person classes must resume distance learning by the start of the fall semester.
Our decisions will be data-driven, with maximum flexibility to local school leaders, recognizing they need public health data to make decisions. The Arizona Department of Health Services will develop and release public health benchmarks for the safe return of in-person, teacher-led classroom instruction. Local school leaders will make the determination and consider these recommendations.
As the coronavirus pandemic continues, there's new guidance from the CDC on childcare and education, guidance that mostly recommends reopening schools this fall. Reed Binion reports.
Being at the school, being on the campus is very, very important. Every district should be actively making preparations to open.
President Trump underscoring his position that schools should reopen this fall despite the ongoing coronavirus pandemic.
Fortunately, the data shows the children are lower risk. The children obviously have a very strong immune system.
This the same day the CDC issued new guidelines coming down hard in favor of opening schools. The agency cited evidence that suggests the virus isn't as serious for children and that kids aren't as likely to spread it to adults. Furthermore, the CDC underscored the harm done by keeping kids out of school, including learning loss and less access to food, mental health care, and other services. Those concerns echoed by others, including Bill Gates, who highlighted the harm to underserved communities.
The less resources their school has, so inner city schools versus suburban versus private, and the less that the teachers were given time to prepare for online, the worse it is.
Although the CDC's guidance favors reopening schools, it also recommends keeping them closed in cases of substantial, uncontrolled coronavirus transmission. The new guidelines come after President Trump complained that the agency's original recommendations for opening schools were too tough and too expensive. I'm Reed Binion reporting.
Teachers and parents in Tucson are still unsatisfied with the idea of sending kids back into classrooms so soon. Earlier this week, they gathered for a motor march, demanding answers to their concerns. 175 cars lined up in the parking lot of High Corbett Field with signs, postcards, passion, and hope for something definitive from the state. The teachers say as much as they'd miss seeing their students every day, they don't want to put their health on the line, and they question the ability to socially distance. Their argument is that the best lesson plan centers on science and safety.
The ideal situation would be to have it be online learning through the whole semester to keep everybody as safe as possible.
The lack of decision making is stressing me out. It's stressing my colleagues out. At my own very small elementary school, we've had one teacher quit as a result of this and another teacher retire early. This is unacceptable, like living on the edge the way we are.
Arizona bars are taking action, appealing Governor Ducey's order to keep bars closed another 2 weeks. 50 owners of 44 bars across the state have filed a lawsuit with the Arizona Supreme Court, claiming Ducey's order to shut down is unconstitutional. Ducey ordered the original shutdown on June 29th, noting there were over 73,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases in the state and over 1,500 deaths. Since then, those numbers have more than doubled. The initial order told bars, nightclubs, gyms, movie theaters, water parks, and tubing to, quote, pause operations until at least July 27th unless extended. The attorney for the bars says his clients want to be safe, but the government should not have the authority to pause the livelihood of Arizona residents for months at a time. The court will decide whether or not to hear the case after a reply brief is filed next week. Right now, companies are looking for new ways to get rid of the COVID-19 virus. Cronkite News reporter Madison Atkinson explains how one pest control company found one of the products they already use could help in the fight.
The Truly Nolan Pest Control Company realized one of the products they use could be a COVID-19 killer.
We use a product called DSC. It's a product that we've been using for years in our rodent control division. So after we clean out a rodent's nest, we go through and we treat with this in order to knock down any viruses or bacteria that's left behind after rodent infestation.
So now they are offering a service called Truly Sanitize, where technicians use this product to treat non-porous surfaces.
It doesn't work on material because it needs to maintain 10 minutes of wetness on the surface in order to know that we've killed any of the bacteria or viruses that are on the surface.
The product was approved in March by the Environmental Protection Agency to be effective on COVID-19. Teresa Murray, who is a customer watchdog for the U.S. PIRG, says there are 433 different chemicals that the EPA has approved for disinfectant. But she says it is important to clean surfaces before the disinfectant is applied.
If you're disinfecting, say, a workplace, for example, it's important to kind of clean it a little bit first on the surface, because if you've got like dirt or dust and the germs are hiding underneath, then the coronavirus germs could actually be laying underneath. So if you spray to disinfect, then the germs could actually be hiding. So depending on how long it's been since a particular surface has been wiped down with like soap and water or something, you may need to clean it first.
Truly Nolan has used their COVID-19 control product in nursing homes, fire departments, office buildings, and large warehouses. Madison Atkinson, Cronkite News.
Truly Nolan is requiring their employees to wear face masks, gloves, and PPE when on the job sanitizing. Tomorrow, Valleywise Health is partnering with the Arizona Healthcare Cost Containment System to host a phone bank to help those who have recently become unemployed or uninsured during the pandemic. The phone bank will take place from 8 a.m. to noon. Its primary focus is assisting those looking for insurance coverage through Access. The eligibility specialist will determine if you qualify, explain how to apply, and also provide information on healthcare services through the state's Medicaid program. They'll be taking phone calls in both English and Spanish. The number to call is 602-344-1600. As the country sweats through the thick of what's likely to be another sweltering summer, another invisible threat looms. With a heat wave baking huge swaths of the country, some fear the collision of COVID-19 and extreme heat could be a dangerous combination. With millions across the country out of work and the virus forcing vulnerable people to stay in their homes, experts say the pandemic is compounding the heat risk for those already struggling. The CDC has issued guidance for how to safely open cooling centers, which many cities are still offering. However, many of the informal cooling centers people normally use to get a break from the heat, such as malls, pools, and grocery stores, are either closed indefinitely in many places or aren't a safe space to spend hours inside. Before noon today, a tornado touched down east of Kingman. Check out these incredible images being shared across social media. The National Weather Service in Las Vegas confirmed the weather phenomenon in several tweets, telling those in the area to take shelter. The tornado reportedly touched down about 10 miles east of Kingman and was moving at 10 miles per hour. There were no immediate reports of damage or injuries. Speaking of weather, the first major monsoonal activity hit Tucson hard yesterday, creating dangerous flooding conditions. The National Weather Service says up to 3 inches of rain fell within a 3-hour period in southern Arizona. More than half a dozen roads and access ramps along Interstate 10 northwest of Tucson were closed Thursday afternoon. The Tucson Fire Department tweeted it had responded to multiple swift water rescues. Forecasters say there's a slight chance for more spotty storms throughout the weekend before we dry out and heat back up next week. Phoenix Rising FC returns to Orange County Saturday to play Orange County FC on a field that raised concerns among rising players and coaches when they played there last week. Orange County FC plays at a city park. Amidst the pandemic, Orange County officials deemed park maintenance was not essential business and the park would be closed down. Fast forward to last week when rising forward Solomon Asante tweeted after the first of 2 games that the field was unplayable. Head coach Rick Shantz said Orange County FC coaches informed him the field hadn't been treated for many months and drastic measures were being done to make it playable.
They decided to fertilize it, and when they fertilized it, they burned a lot of the field. So much of it was brown and very hard. And their solution, because this was an ESPN game, was to paint it green. And when you paint fields, it makes it extremely sticky, and the ball doesn't roll very well, and it also makes the field very hard. So we had requested for them to wet the field before the match, and they said they couldn't because the paint would run off. By no means is it an excuse. Both teams have to play under the same circumstances, but it does impact us quite a bit when the game slows down.
Here are 3 more sports stories we're tracking today. First up to bat, MLB Opening Day quenched the thirst of sports fans' desire for live games yesterday. Players used the eyes of the sports world to take a stance. All 4 teams kneeled for roughly 25 seconds before the national anthem was played to show support for the Black Lives Matter movement. The coordinated effort featured all players and coaches on the field taking a knee while a Players Alliance video played. Actor Morgan Freeman narrated it. Players also held a black ribbon rounding the bases to show unity. Several players, including All-Star Mookie Betts, remained kneeling for the anthem. Next up, the Washington NFL team officially announced their new name effective immediately. They will be called the Washington Football Team for the upcoming season. This is not the final rebranding or new name for the team. They're still in the process of retiring the former name with hopes to rid it completely in the next 50 days. In addition to the name change, the team will be wearing new uniforms. Players' numbers will replace the old logo on the helmets. The team is seeking feedback from fans, sponsors, and players during the process. And third, release the Kraken. The NHL announced the name and design for its 32nd franchise, the Seattle Kraken. There was a wave of excitement following the announcement of the new NHL expansion team in 2018. Fans got a look at what the new team will look like Thursday. The marine-inspired design honors the city of Seattle. The S logo pays homage to the Seattle Metropolitans, the first American club to hoist the Stanley Cup. Team leaders consulted fans and monitored social media throughout the process. The Kraken was officially unleashed yesterday. Finally tonight, one of the top trending stories online today. He's been the go-to doctor on COVID-19, but last night, Dr. Anthony Fauci got to have a little fun throwing out the first pitch of the 2020 MLB season. The defending World Series champion Washington Nationals hosted the New York Yankees. Fauci is a Nationals fan. He donned a team jersey and wore a face mask. Fauci will likely return to his day job as the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, since his pitch didn't reach home plate, landing wide left. Fauci isn't alone on first pitch hiccups. SportsCenter compared Fauci's first pitch to rapper 50 Cent's pitch in 2014. This Twitter user says, quote, "Respect the consistency of Fauci. He doesn't want anybody catching anything." That's it for this edition of Cronkite News. For Arizona news updates throughout the day, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.